The moment I pressed the remote to activate my new heated driveway for the first time, watching 3 inches of fresh Colorado snow melt into steam within minutes, I didn't expect to find Sharon Patterson standing at the edge of my property line with her phone out, recording the whole thing. I just moved into the Evergreen Estates subdivision outside Denver 2 months ago, a decision I'd made after getting promoted to senior engineer at a tech startup downtown. The house was perfect, a modern 4-bedroom with a view of the Rockies, and I'd saved up for years to afford the upgrades I wanted. The heated driveway was at the top of my list. Growing up in Minnesota, I'd spent enough frozen mornings scraping ice off windshields to last a lifetime. At 34 years old, I figured I'd earned the right to skip that particular ritual. "Excuse me," Sharon called out, her voice carrying that specific pitch that immediately puts you on edge. "Brandon Barnes, right? We need to talk about this immediately." I walked down my driveway, still marveling at how the concrete radiated warmth through my boots. "Can I help you?" She was maybe 45, with that precise haircut that screamed middle management, wearing a puffy jacket despite the temperature being a mild 28 degrees. "I'm Sharon Patterson, HOA president. I've received several complaints about your installation here." Complaints? I glanced at my watch. It was 6:30 in the morning on a Saturday. "I just turned it on 10 minutes ago." "The installation," she clarified, as if speaking to a child. "You didn't submit the proper paperwork for approval." I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my emails. I submitted Form 2847 for exterior modifications on November 3rd. Got an approval email from the Architectural Review Committee on November 8th. Had it installed the week of Thanksgiving. "Everything's documented." Sharon's expression tightened. "That approval was for concrete work. You didn't specify heated elements." "The form literally says driveway replacement with embedded heating system. It's in the description field, plain as day." "Well, I'm looking at the regulations right now, and this creates an unfair advantage over other homeowners. Not everyone can afford such luxuries, and it creates class division within the community." I stared at her, genuinely confused. Class division. It's a driveway. It melts snow. "How does that affect anyone else?" "It's the principle, Brandon. May I call you Brandon?" She didn't wait for an answer. "We pride ourselves on maintaining equality and fairness in Evergreen Estates. When one homeowner flaunts their wealth with unnecessary extravagances, it makes others feel inadequate." The absurdity was almost funny. "So because I installed something that makes my life easier and no one else has it, that's somehow unfair to them." "Precisely." She seemed genuinely pleased that I understood. "I'm going to have to ask you to disable it until we can hold a community meeting to discuss this matter properly." "Sharon, with all due respect, no. I filed the proper paperwork, got approval, paid for the installation myself, and it doesn't violate any actual HOA rules. If people feel bad because I have a heated driveway, that's their problem, not mine." Her face flushed red. This is exactly the kind of attitude that creates problems in planned communities. "I'll be scheduling an emergency board meeting. Expect a formal letter." She stomped off, nearly slipping on her own unheated driveway, catching herself on her mailbox. I went back inside, made coffee, and tried to forget about the interaction. My girlfriend Madison Foster was coming over later, and I didn't want to spend the day stressed about HOA drama. Madison arrived around noon with Thai food and immediately noticed my mood. "What's wrong?" "Someone ding your car." I explained the morning's confrontation while we ate pad thai at my kitchen island. Madison, who worked as a civil litigation paralegal, had heard plenty of HOA horror stories. "Let me get this straight," she said, twirling noodles around her fork. She's mad because your driveway works better than hers. Apparently, it's creating class division. Brandon, that's the dumbest thing I've heard all week, and I work with lawyers. That's saying something. She pulled out her phone. Forward me all the documentation. If they try to fine you or force removal, you'll have grounds for a lawsuit, especially since you got written approval. I don't want to sue my HOA. I just moved in. Then you better figure out how to make this go away, because Sharon sounds like the type who doesn't let things go. She was right about that. The formal letter arrived Monday, hand-delivered to my door while I was working from home. It was 3 pages long, citing various HOA bylaws about community standards, aesthetic uniformity, and equitable living conditions. The letter demanded I appear at an emergency board meeting scheduled for Thursday evening at 7 o'clock in the community center. I called my neighbor, Rick Morrison, a retired contractor in his 60s who'd lived in Evergreen Estates for 8 years. Yeah, Sharon's been president for 3 years now, he explained. She means well, mostly, but she's got this thing about everyone being exactly the same. Last year, she tried to make everyone plant the same flowers. Before that, she wanted all the houses painted in a narrow color palette. Did any of that pass? Nope. Enough people pushed back, but she doesn't quit easy. She'll keep coming at you with different angles until something sticks or she gets distracted by someone else's project. Thursday evening, I put on business casual and drove to the community center, a small building near the subdivision entrance that mostly hosted yoga classes and book clubs. The meeting room had about 20 folding chairs arranged in rows, with a table at the front where Sharon sat flanked by 4 other board members. I recognized 2 of them as neighbors I'd waved to but never really talked to. About 15 residents showed up, most looking confused about why they'd been summoned. Sharon called the meeting to order with an actual gavel, which seemed excessive. Thank you all for coming on short notice. We're here to address a serious matter affecting the fairness and equality of our community. She gestured to a laptop, projecting a photo of my driveway onto a screen. As many of you know, Brandon Barnes at 2847 Pinecrest Drive has installed a heated driveway system without proper disclosure to the board. A man in the back raised his hand. Didn't know that was an option. That's pretty cool. Sharon's expression soured. That's exactly the problem, Dennis. It creates desire for something that not everyone can afford, breeding resentment and inequality. A woman I didn't recognize spoke up. I don't resent Brandon. I didn't even know about it until this meeting. The point, Sharon said sharply, is that we need to maintain standards. If we allow one person to install luxury items that others cannot afford, where does it end? Heated sidewalks, outdoor heated pools, golden toilets. Actually, I said, standing up, I'd like to address the board directly if that's allowed. Sharon looked like she wanted to refuse but nodded curtly. You have 3 minutes. I walked to the front, pulling up my phone. First, I submitted all required paperwork and received written approval from the Architectural Review Committee. Second, there's nothing in the CC and Articles that prohibits heated driveways or classifies them as requiring special permission beyond standard exterior modifications. Third, and most importantly, the idea that my personal property choices create unfairness is absurd. By that logic, anyone with a nicer car, better furniture, or bigger TV is creating class division. I paused, looking around the room. But here's what I'm willing to do. If the issue is that other people want heated driveways but can't afford the installation, I'll help. I got a bulk discount through my installer because he's a friend from college. The cost was about $8,000 for materials and labor on my driveway, which is about 600 square feet. If other people want it done, I can probably get the price down to around 6,000 or 7,000 per house if we order materials in bulk. The room went quiet. Sharon blinked several times. You're offering to install heated driveways for other residents. I'm offering to coordinate installation at a discounted rate. Yeah. That way it's not about wealth or unfairness. It's just about whether people want to invest in the upgrade or not. Completely optional, obviously. Dennis in the back raised his hand again. I'd be interested in that. My back's not what it used to be, and shoveling's getting harder each year. Another voice chimed in. What kind of energy costs are we talking? About $40 a month during winter if you run it regularly, I answered. Less if you only activate it during actual snowfall. It's got sensors that can trigger automatically, or you can control it manually like I do. Sharon looked flustered, shuffling her papers. This isn't about people wanting the service. This is about maintaining community standards and ensuring proper oversight of modifications. But I had oversight, I pointed out. The ARC approved my plans. One of the other board members, an older woman named Patricia, spoke up. Sharon, I'm looking at the approval records and Brandon's right. The description clearly states heated elements. Mark from the ARC signed off on it. Mark didn't understand what he was approving, Sharon insisted. Mark's an electrical engineer, Patricia countered. I think he understood perfectly well. The meeting devolved into arguments between board members while residents started talking among themselves about the potential installation offer. Eventually, Sharon gavelled for order again, her face red with frustration. Fine. We'll table this matter until next month's regular meeting. In the meantime, Brandon, I expect you to provide detailed documentation about your proposed bulk installation plan, including costs, timeline, and contractor credentials. Happy to, I said, sitting back down. The meeting adjourned, and several neighbors approached me with questions about the heated driveway process. Dennis wanted to know about installation time. A younger couple asked about compatibility with different concrete types. Rick Morrison clapped me on the shoulder and whispered, "Brilliant move, kid." Sharon left without speaking to anyone, but I could feel her glaring at me from across the parking lot. Over the next 2 weeks, I contacted my friend Tyler, the installation contractor, and explained the situation. He thought it was hilarious. "So you're basically calling her bluff by offering to help everyone," Tyler laughed over the phone. "I love it. Yeah, I can do bulk pricing. If we get 5 or more houses, I can probably hit that $6,000 mark per driveway, maybe lower depending on sizes." I created a simple information packet with pricing, specifications, energy costs, and installation timelines. Then I sent an email to the HOA mailing list, which was technically allowed for community-wide offers according to the bylaws. Within 24 hours, I had 12 families interested in getting estimates. Sharon replied to my email with a CC to the entire community, warning people that unofficial contractor arrangements weren't endorsed by the board and proceeded at residents' own risk. Patricia, the board member who'd backed me up, replied all with a note that residents were free to hire any licensed contractors they wished for approved modifications. The situation escalated when Sharon started showing up at my house unannounced. The first time, on a Tuesday morning, she knocked loudly while I was in a video meeting. I muted myself, answered the door, and found her holding a tape measure. "I need to verify that your installation meets setback requirements," she announced, trying to push past me. "Do you have an appointment or a warrant?" I blocked the doorway. "I'm the HOA president. I have the right to inspect properties for code violations." "No, actually, you don't. The bylaws state that inspections require 72 hours written notice unless there's an emergency situation like fire or flood. This isn't that. I could make this very difficult for you, Brandon. Sharon, I've followed every rule. I've offered to help other residents get the same upgrade at a discount. What exactly is your problem here? Her expression went cold. You think you're clever, don't you? Coming into this neighborhood, flaunting your money, making people feel bad about what they don't have. Then playing the generous benefactor to make me look unreasonable. That's not what this is about. Really. Because it seems like you're trying to undermine my authority and make me look bad in front of the community. Sharon, I literally just wanted a heated driveway. You're the one who made it into a whole thing. She left without another word, but I had a sinking feeling this wasn't over. That weekend, I received a certified letter informing me that the HOA was fining me $500 for unauthorized modifications pending review. Madison, who was now essentially acting as my informal legal advisor, shook her head when I showed her. They can't do this. You have written approval. This is harassment. She pulled out her laptop. I'm drafting a response letter. We cite the approval documentation. Note that the fine is retaliatory and without basis, and warn them that continued harassment will result in legal action. Is that too aggressive? Brandon, they're fining you for something they already approved. That's not just aggressive on their part. It's potentially illegal depending on Colorado HOA law. You want to know what I think? Sharon's afraid. Of what? That if you successfully coordinate this group installation, you'll look good and she'll look like she wasted everyone's time. Or worse, people will start questioning why she made such a big deal about it in the first place. She's trying to assert dominance before she loses face completely. Madison sent the response letter on Monday. By Wednesday, I received another certified letter, this time informing me that my membership voting privileges were suspended pending investigation into community disruption. That was when I decided to attend the regular monthly board meeting, which was open to all residents. About 30 people showed up, significantly more than usual according to Rick Morrison. Sharon looked visibly uncomfortable with the turnout. During the open comment period, I stood and addressed the board calmly. I'd like to understand the basis for suspending my voting rights. I've received no hearing, no specific charges, and no opportunity to defend myself. According to the bylaws, that violates due process requirements. Sharon shuffled papers. Your actions have created division within the community. What actions specifically? Installing a heated driveway that was approved, offering to help neighbors get the same service at a discount, responding to an unjustified fine. Dennis stood up from the back. Seems to me like Sharon's the one creating division. Brandon's been nothing but helpful. I got an estimate from his contractor guy, and the price is fair. I'm planning to move forward with installation in spring. Another resident, a middle-aged woman named Carol, chimed in. I don't understand what the problem is. If people want to spend their money on heated driveways, why does the HOA care? Sharon's voice rose. Because when some people have luxuries and others don't, it creates an uncomfortable atmosphere. It makes people feel inadequate. I feel more inadequate listening to you tell me I should be jealous of my neighbor's driveway, Carol shot back. That's insulting. The meeting got heated, with multiple residents speaking up either to defend me or question Sharon's leadership. The other board members looked increasingly uncomfortable. Finally, Patricia made a motion to reverse both the fine and the voting suspension, citing lack of proper justification. Another board member, a quiet guy named James, seconded it. Sharon's face went bright red. This is inappropriate. We need proper investigation before reversing disciplinary actions. What's inappropriate is implementing them without cause in the first place, Patricia said firmly. All in favor. 3 of the 5 board members voted yes. Sharon and 1 other voted no. The motion passed. Sharon stood abruptly, grabbed her papers, and walked out of the meeting. The remaining board members looked at each other awkwardly before Patricia took over as temporary chair to finish the agenda. I thought that might be the end of it. I was wrong. The following week, I came home from work to find a code enforcement officer from the county standing in my driveway with a clipboard. My stomach dropped. "Brandon Barnes," he asked, professional but not unfriendly. "That's me. What's this about?" "Received a complaint about unpermitted electrical work. I need to verify that your heated driveway system was installed with proper permits." I took a breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "It absolutely was. Let me get the documentation." I retrieved the folder I'd been keeping with all the paperwork, including the electrical permit from the county and the inspection certificate. The officer reviewed everything carefully. "This all looks in order," he said, making notes. "Mind if I take a quick look at the installation itself?" "Just to close out the complaint." "Go ahead." He spent about 10 minutes examining the control panel in my garage and checking connections. Finally, he nodded. "Everything's up to code. Professional installation. You're all set. Can I ask who filed the complaint?" "That information's confidential, but between you and me, we get a lot of nuisance calls from HOA disputes. Usually comes to nothing." He handed me a closure report. "You might want to keep this handy in case they try again." After he left, I called Tyler to tell him what happened. "Sharon called the county on me." "Dude, that's messed up. Good thing we did everything by the book." Tyler paused. "You know, I've done installations in a lot of subdivisions, and I've never seen an HOA president this bent out of shape over a driveway. Usually they care about visible stuff like paint colors or lawn ornaments, not functional upgrades." "I think Madison's right. It's not really about the driveway. It's about control." Over the next month, 6 families moved forward with heated driveway installations, all using Tyler's bulk pricing deal. Sharon tried to hold up the permits through the arc, but with Patricia and James now actively questioning her decisions, the approvals went through. Each installation seemed to make Sharon angrier. She started sending increasingly bizarre emails to the HOA list, warning about electrical grid strain and unfair property value inflation. Most residents ignored her, but a few vocal supporters backed her up, creating 2 distinct camps within the neighborhood. In March, things came to a head. I was working in my home office when Madison called, her voice urgent. "Brandon, you need to check your bank account right now." I pulled up the app. "What am I looking for?" "Your HOA dues. Did you pay them this month?" "Auto pay like always." "Why?" "Sharon's claiming you're delinquent and is trying to put a lien on your house." I checked the transaction history. The payment had gone through on March 1st, same as every month. "The payment processed. I have confirmation right here." She's saying they never received it. "She sent an email to the management company claiming you're 3 months behind." I forwarded Madison the bank statements showing all 3 payments. "This is fraud. She's literally making up financial delinquency." "Yeah, and that's a crime. The question is whether you want to push this to legal action or try to resolve it internally first." I thought about the past 4 months, the constant harassment, the county complaint, the unjustified fines, and now false claims about payments. "I'm done trying to be reasonable. What do we do?" Madison walked me through the process. "First, we documented everything. Every email, every letter, every interaction. Then we filed a formal complaint with the HOA management company that handled the financial side of Evergreen Estates. The management company, after reviewing the bank records, confirmed that all my payments had been received and processed correctly. They sent Sharon an official letter correcting the record and noting that false delinquency claims could result in legal liability for the HOA. They also CC'd the entire board. Patricia called me that evening. "Brandon, I want to apologize on behalf of the board. I've been reviewing Sharon's actions over the past few months, and this has gone way too far. Several of us are planning to call for a vote of no confidence." Is that going to cause more drama? Probably, but it's necessary. She's exposing the HOA to serious liability with this behavior. The management company is threatening to drop us if the harassment continues. That would be a disaster for property values. The vote of no confidence was scheduled for the April board meeting. Sharon, sensing she was losing support, went on the offensive. She sent a 5-page email to all residents claiming I was part of a conspiracy to take over the HOA and enrich contractors through kickback schemes. It was so over the top that most people didn't take it seriously, but a few did. One neighbor, an older man named George who'd been one of Sharon's supporters, actually confronted me at the mailbox. "You getting paid by this contractor friend of yours?" he demanded. "No, George. I'm not getting a penny. Tyler's giving people fair prices on a service they want. Seems suspicious that you're pushing it so hard." "I'm not pushing anything. I offered to coordinate bulk pricing to save people money. That's it." He grumbled something about young people and walked away, but the accusation stung. I'd been trying to help, and now people were questioning my motives. The April meeting had the biggest turnout yet. Over 50 residents crammed into the community center. Sharon arrived with printed handouts titled "The Truth About Brandon Barnes," which were basically expanded versions of her conspiracy email. Patricia, now openly opposing Sharon, started the meeting by addressing the elephant in the room. "Before we begin regular business, we need to discuss the conduct of our current president and whether she should continue in that role." Sharon interrupted. "This is a coup attempt orchestrated by Brandon and his supporters to avoid accountability. Sharon, you've made false delinquency claims, called county code enforcement with frivolous complaints, suspended voting rights without cause, and sent defamatory emails to the entire community," Patricia said firmly. "That's not leadership. That's harassment. I was protecting the community from someone trying to profit from his neighbors." "Where's your evidence of profit?" James, the quiet board member, spoke up. "We've reviewed the contractor arrangements. The pricing is transparent and competitive. No kickbacks, no conflicts of interest." "You've made serious accusations without any proof." I raised my hand. "Can I speak?" Patricia nodded. I stood, holding my documentation folder. "I've lived here for 6 months. In that time, I've filed proper paperwork for every modification, paid all fees and dues on time, and tried to be a good neighbor. Sharon has fined me without cause, falsely claimed I was delinquent on payments, called county enforcement to harass me, and now she's accusing me of fraud. I have documentation of all of it." I held up the folder. "Bank statements showing timely payments, county closure reports showing my permits were valid, copies of all the approval emails, response letters from the management company. Everything proves that I followed the rules and Sharon chose to target me anyway." Sharon stood up, her voice shaking. "You humiliated me. You made me look foolish in front of the entire community." The room went quiet. Even her supporters looked uncomfortable. "How did I humiliate you?" I asked, genuinely confused. "By offering to help everyone get heated driveways. You made it seem like I was being unreasonable for raising concerns." "Sharon, you were being unreasonable. You claimed my driveway was unfair to other people." I solved that problem by helping other people get the same thing. That's not humiliation. That's problem solving. You should have deferred to my authority as president, not when your authority is being abused to harass me for a driveway. Patricia called for the vote. The motion to remove Sharon as president passed with over 70% support from residents present. The motion to remove her from the board entirely passed with slightly less but still clear majority. Sharon gathered her things in silence, her face streaked with tears, and left the meeting. I felt bad for her despite everything, but mostly I felt relieved. Patricia took over as interim president and immediately made clear that her priority was de-escalating tensions and getting the HOA back to basic functions. The meeting ended on a surprisingly positive note, with several residents thanking me for standing up to the harassment. Rick Morrison caught me in the parking lot afterward. "You handled that well, kid. A lot of people would have lost their temper or just moved." "I thought about moving," I admitted, "but I really like this house. Sharon's not a bad person, you know. She just got fixed on an idea and couldn't let it go. Happens to the best of us sometimes." I appreciated Rick's perspective, but I wasn't ready to be quite that generous yet. For a few weeks, things were quiet. The 6 families with heated driveways loved them, especially during an unexpected late-season snowstorm in early May. 3 more families signed up for installation, pushing Tyler's schedule into early summer. Then Sharon's husband contacted me. His name was Paul, and I'd never actually met him. He called on a Tuesday evening. "Brandon, this is Paul Patterson, Sharon's husband. I hope it's okay that I'm reaching out directly." "Sure, what's up?" "I wanted to apologize for everything Sharon put you through." I didn't realize how far things had gone until after she was removed from the board. She's been struggling with some personal issues, feeling like she's lost control of things in her life, and I think she fixated on your driveway situation as something she could control. I didn't know what to say. "I appreciate the apology, Paul. That must be hard for you." "It is. She's embarrassed and angry, mostly at herself, but she's also still convinced she was right to raise concerns, so it's complicated." He paused. "The real reason I'm calling is that she's planning to sue you." My stomach dropped. "Sue me for what?" "Defamation, harassment, intentional infliction of emotional distress." "I think. She's been meeting with a lawyer. I've tried to talk her out of it, but she's not listening to me right now." "Paul, I never defamed her or harassed her. I have documentation proving the opposite." "I know. I've read all the emails and letters. You were defending yourself against her actions, but she's framed it differently in her mind, and the lawyer she found seems willing to take the case." After I hung up, I immediately called Madison. She was quiet for a long moment after I explained. "Okay, first, don't panic. Second, this is actually good for you in a weird way." "How is being sued good?" "Because if she actually files, you can countersue for malicious prosecution and abuse of process. Plus, discovery will expose all her actions in detail. No court is going to side with her based on what you've told me, but you're going to need an actual lawyer, not just your paralegal girlfriend." Madison connected me with one of the attorneys at her firm who specialized in HOA disputes and civil litigation. His name was Kevin Martinez, and he had a reputation for being aggressive but fair. I met with Kevin the following week. He reviewed all my documentation, asked detailed questions about the timeline, and finally leaned back in his chair. "Sharon Patterson doesn't have a case. What she has is a grudge and a lawyer willing to take her money. If she files, we'll move to dismiss on grounds that her claims lack merit. If the judge doesn't dismiss, we'll win at trial. Either way, you're going to incur legal costs defending yourself. Can I recover those costs?" "Possibly, especially if we countersue and win." Colorado law allows for recovery of attorney fees in frivolous litigation cases, but it depends on the judge and how egregious Sharon's conduct appears. So what should I do? Wait. If she files, we respond aggressively. If she doesn't file, you've spent nothing but this consultation fee. Sometimes people threaten lawsuits and never follow through. Sharon followed through. The lawsuit was filed in Jefferson County District Court in mid-June, claiming $50,000 in damages for defamation and emotional distress. The specific allegations were so disconnected from reality that Kevin actually laughed while reading them. She claims you organized a campaign to publicly humiliate her, made false statements about her leadership, and conspired with other residents to force her removal from the board. He looked up. Brandon, she's described your response to her harassment as harassment itself. This is textbook Darvo. What's Darvo? Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. It's a common tactic. The actual aggressor claims they are the victim. Kevin made notes on his legal pad. We're going to file a motion to dismiss, and simultaneously, we're filing a counterclaim for abuse of process, intentional infliction of emotional distress based on her harassment campaign, and we're seeking attorney fees. The legal process moved slowly. The motion to dismiss was scheduled for a hearing in August. In the meantime, I tried to get back to normal life. Work was busy. Madison and I were talking about moving in together, and the neighborhood had mostly returned to calm under Patricia's leadership. Tyler finished the spring installation batch, and the reviews were universally positive. A few more families expressed interest for fall installation. The heated driveway controversy had become a weird point of pride for Evergreen Estates, a story people told about standing up to HOA overreach. Rick Morrison organized a neighborhood barbecue in July, partly to celebrate summer and partly to rebuild community cohesion after the drama. About 40 people showed up, including several of the families who'd gotten heated driveways installed. Sharon and Paul weren't there, which wasn't surprising. They'd apparently stopped attending any community events. A few people mentioned seeing Sharon around the neighborhood, but said she looked stressed and unhappy. Dennis approached me at the barbecue with a beer and a grin. My daughter visited last winter during that snowstorm. Pulled into my driveway, saw the snow melting, and called me a genius. Best money I've spent on this house. Glad it's working out. Seriously, though, thanks for coordinating it all, and for standing up to Sharon. She meant well, but she was way out of line. The hearing for the motion to dismiss arrived in mid-August. Madison took the day off work to come with me for moral support. The courtroom was small, just the judge, the lawyers, court staff, and us. Sharon's lawyer, a young guy who looked fresh out of law school, argued that the case deserved to proceed to discovery, because the emotional distress claims were valid and fact-dependent. Kevin countered with a detailed timeline of Sharon's actions, documented harassment, false claims, and abuse of authority. He presented it all clinically, letting the facts speak for themselves. The judge, a woman in her 60s named Judge Morrison, no relation to Rick, asked Sharon's lawyer several pointed questions. Counselor, your client filed false delinquency claims against Mr. Barnes. She suspended his voting rights without cause. She called county code enforcement with complaints that proved baseless. How do you characterize Mr. Barnes's response to these actions as harassment? Your Honor, he organized other residents against her and created a hostile environment that led to her removal from the board. Did he make false statements about her? He portrayed her concerns as unreasonable. Were they unreasonable? Sharon's lawyer hesitated. That's a matter of perspective. Counselor, either Mr. Barnes lied about your client or he expressed opinions about her actions. Which is it? He created a narrative that damaged her reputation. Judge Morrison looked unimpressed. I'm granting the motion to dismiss with prejudice. Mr. Barnes's actions, as documented, were responsive to ongoing harassment by Miss Patterson. His statements appear to be either factual or protected opinion. This lawsuit appears retaliatory in nature. She turned to Kevin. Mr. Martinez, I see you filed a counterclaim. I'm inclined to let that proceed. Miss Patterson's conduct as HOA president, if accurately represented in these documents, was problematic at best. Sharon's lawyer tried to argue, but Judge Morrison cut him off. I'm also awarding Mr. Barnes attorney fees for defending against this motion. We'll schedule the counterclaim for a case management conference in 30 days. Walking out of the courthouse, I felt a weight lift. Madison hugged me tight in the parking lot. It's almost over, she said. What about the counterclaim? Kevin will probably push for settlement. Sharon's not going to want to go through discovery, where all her emails and actions become public record. Madison was right. 2 weeks later, Kevin called to say Sharon's lawyer had reached out about settlement discussions. They offered $5,000 to drop everything and sign mutual non-disparagement agreements. Is that fair? I asked. It's lowball, Kevin said bluntly. Your documented attorney fees alone are over $8,000 at this point, and we haven't even started discovery on the counterclaim. I think we can get more. I don't want to drag this out forever, though. Let me negotiate. I'll aim for full attorney fee coverage plus another $5,000 for your trouble and the emotional distress she actually caused you. After 3 weeks of back and forth, we settled. Sharon would pay $15,000, covering my attorney fees and additional damages. She would also sign an agreement not to file any further legal actions against me and to refrain from interfering with my property or HOA participation. In return, I agreed not to pursue the counterclaim further and to refrain from making public statements about the dispute beyond what was already documented. Kevin got the signed agreement in October. It's done. You're free and clear, and you've been compensated for your trouble. I felt relieved but also strangely empty. The whole situation had taken nearly a year of my life, and for what? A heated driveway and a power-tripping HOA president who couldn't handle someone doing something different. That winter, we got an early snow in November. I activated my heated driveway and watched the snow melt away, just like the first time. This time, there was no Sharon filming me from the property line. Paul Patterson contacted me one more time in December. Brandon, I wanted to let you know we're moving. Sharon can't handle living here anymore after everything that happened. We've bought a house in Littleton. I'm sorry it came to that. Don't be. It's probably for the best. New start for both of us. He paused. For what it's worth, I think Sharon understands now that she handled things poorly. She won't admit it directly, but I can tell the settlement was a wake-up call. I hope things work out for you both. Thanks. And Brandon, enjoy your heated driveway. It really is pretty cool. After Paul hung up, Madison, who'd been listening from the kitchen, came over and wrapped her arms around me. How do you feel? Honestly, glad it's over. And grateful I didn't back down. You stood up for yourself. That matters. Christmas came, and the neighborhood felt genuinely peaceful for the first time since I'd moved in. Patricia was doing a solid job as HOA president, focusing on actual community issues like street maintenance and organizing social events, rather than micromanaging residents' property choices. In January, Tyler called with interesting news. Hey man, I've been getting calls from other subdivisions around Denver asking about bulk heated driveway installations. Apparently, word spread about the Evergreen Estates setup, and people love the idea of coordinated pricing. Would you be cool if I mentioned you as a reference? Go for it. I'm not going through that again, though, he laughed. I don't blame you. But seriously, that whole mess actually turned into good business for me and helped a bunch of your neighbors get something they wanted. Silver lining, right? Rick Morrison knocked on my door in February with a bottle of bourbon and a grin. Heard Sharon and Paul's house sold. Closed last week. Yeah, Paul told me they were moving. You know what the funny thing is? The new buyers specifically mentioned the neighborhood drama in their negotiations. Said they researched evergreen estates and liked that residents pushed back against HOA overreach. Made them feel like it was a community that wouldn't tolerate abuse. We sat in my living room, sipping bourbon and watching snow fall outside. My driveway, of course, was clear. You never told me why you didn't just disable the driveway when Sharon first complained, Rick said. Would have saved you a year of hell. Principle, I guess. I'd done nothing wrong. Why should I have to change my behavior because someone else had a problem with it? Not everyone would fight like that. My dad always told me that bullies keep bullying until someone stands up to them. Sharon wasn't a bully in the traditional sense, but the dynamic was the same. If I'd backed down, she would have moved on to controlling something else, someone else. Rick nodded thoughtfully. Well, you did the neighborhood a favor. Patricia's been a way better president, focuses on stuff that actually matters. By the time spring arrived, the heated driveway saga had become neighborhood lore. New residents moving in heard the story and usually laughed at the absurdity of it. The 13 families who'd installed heated driveways formed an informal club, joking about their luxury status. Madison and I did end up moving in together, though not into my house in Evergreen Estates. We bought a larger place in a different subdivision in the fall, one with a much more hands-off HOA approach. I kept my Evergreen Estates house and rented it out to a young couple who specifically asked if the heated driveway was included. That's literally why we want this house, the wife said during the showing. We heard about the whole HOA battle, and my husband and I are from Florida. We're not shoveling snow if we don't have to. Before I finalized the rental agreement, I attended one last HOA meeting at Evergreen Estates, partly out of curiosity and partly to officially transfer my membership to the new tenants. Patricia pulled me aside afterward. You know, in a weird way, Sharon did us a favor. How so? She exposed weaknesses in our bylaws and procedures. After everything that happened, we revised the rules to add clear due process protections, limits on presidential authority, and better guidelines for approving modifications. The community's actually stronger for it. Glad something good came out of it. Plus, heated driveways are now explicitly listed as approved modifications that only need standard ARC review. So if that was your goal all along, mission accomplished. I laughed. My goal was just not to shovel snow. Driving away from Evergreen Estates for the last time as a resident, I thought about everything that had happened. A heated driveway had seemed like such a simple, practical decision. I never imagined it would lead to months of conflict, legal battles, and ultimately changing how an entire HOA operated. But I also knew I'd made the right choice in standing my ground. Not because the heated driveway was that important in itself, but because giving in to unreasonable demands sets a bad precedent. Sharon had been wrong to target me, wrong to abuse her authority, and wrong to make my property improvement into a community crisis. The settlement money was sitting in a savings account. Madison and I had talked about using it as part of a down payment on our new house, but ultimately, I decided to donate most of it to a legal aid fund that helped homeowners fight HOA abuse. If my experience could help someone else who didn't have the resources to fight back, that felt like the right use of it. Our new house, ironically, had a heated driveway already installed by the previous owner. Madison joked that I was cursed to always have one now, but this HOA didn't care. They had precisely 3 rules for exterior modifications. Submit plans if you're changing the footprint. Keep your grass below 6 inches, and don't paint your house neon colors. Everything else was fair game. The neighborhood was quiet, friendly, and blessedly drama-free. On the anniversary of my first confrontation with Sharon, a year and a half after I'd activated that heated driveway for the first time, I received an unexpected letter. It was handwritten, forwarded from my old Evergreen Estates address. Brandon, I owe you an apology. I've spent the past year in therapy working through why I reacted the way I did to your driveway installation. My therapist helped me understand that I was projecting my own insecurities and need for control onto you and the HOA. You did nothing wrong. You followed the rules, tried to be helpful, and defended yourself when I crossed the line repeatedly. I'm deeply sorry for the stress, expense, and trouble I caused you. You deserved better, especially as a new member of our community. I hope you and Madison are happy in your new home. I heard through mutual acquaintances that you're doing well. I'm genuinely glad. I'm doing better too, working on myself and trying to be more aware of when I'm being unreasonable. Thank you for standing up for yourself. It forced me to confront behaviors I should have addressed years ago. Sincerely, Sharon Patterson. I showed the letter to Madison. She read it twice, then looked up at me. How do you feel? Honestly, I respect that she sent it. That couldn't have been easy. Are you going to respond? I thought about it for a long moment. Yeah, I think I will. I wrote back a brief note thanking her for the apology, expressing hope that she was finding peace and wishing her and Paul well in their new home. I didn't need to rehash everything that had happened or offer absolution. The apology itself was enough. 2 years after the whole saga began, Tyler texted me a photo. It showed a heated driveway he'd just installed with a caption that read, "Number 75 since Evergreen Estates. You started a movement, my friend." I replied with a laughing emoji and congratulations. The absurdity of my heated driveway becoming a regional trend still amused me. That evening, sitting on our back porch with Madison, watching the sun set behind the Rockies, I reflected on everything the experience had taught me. About standing up for yourself, even when it would be easier to give in. About how small conflicts can spiral into major confrontations when pride and ego get involved. About the importance of good governance and reasonable leadership in community organizations. Most of all, I learned that sometimes the most ridiculous battles are worth fighting, not because the specific issue matters that much, but because principles do. Sharon was wrong to target me over a heated driveway. She was wrong to abuse her authority as HOA president. And she was wrong to try to force conformity where individual choice should reign. By standing firm, documenting everything, and refusing to be bullied into submission, I'd not only defended myself, but helped reshape a community's approach to governance. Other residents felt empowered to push back on unreasonable demands. The HOA revised its bylaws to prevent similar abuse, and Sharon herself eventually recognized and apologized for her behavior. Was it worth the stress, expense, and conflict? In the moment, I'd often wondered. Looking back, absolutely. Some fights choose you rather than the other way around. What matters is how you respond. Madison raised her wine glass. What are we toasting? To heated driveways, I said, clinking my glass against hers. To heated driveways, she repeated, smiling. And to men who don't shovel snow when they don't have to. We laughed, and for the first time in 2 years, I felt like the whole saga was truly behind me. Sharon was moving forward with her life. I was moving forward with mine. Evergreen Estates had moved forward as a community. And every winter, 13 families in that subdivision enjoyed warm, snow-free driveways without a second thought about whether it was fair to anyone else. Because that's exactly how it should be. The heated driveway worked perfectly every winter after that. Never a malfunction, never a problem. Just reliable, consistent, snow-melting warmth that made Colorado winters significantly more bearable. Sometimes the simplest solutions really are the best ones, as long as you're willing to defend your right to implement them. Looking back, I wouldn't change how I handled things. Well, maybe I would have documented Sharon's early interactions even more thoroughly, saved myself some legal stress. But the core approach of standing firm on principle while offering constructive solutions, that was right. Rick Morrison was right that first day. Sharon wasn't a bad person. She just got locked into a position and couldn't back down gracefully. It happens to everyone sometimes. The difference is whether you recognize it and course correct or double down until you crash. In the end, we all found our way to better places. Sharon got therapy and self-awareness. I got a settlement and a story. Evergreen Estates got better governance, and Tyler got a thriving niche business installing heated driveways across the Denver metro area. Not bad for a dispute that started with melting snow.